Okay, here we are. We're going to do assembly. So we have our A, our B, our C, and our D. Here's our pretty star block that's all going to come together. We're going to sew C to D first. Then we're going to sew this piece to B. And then we're going to sew this unit to A. So here we go. In order to get started, I have my whole block laid out nicely so that I know which pieces I'm sewing together. So I'm going to grab the first ones, which are C and D. And as long as you cut off all of these little lines that are there, they should line up pretty nice. So you're going to line up your corners here and here. And then always, to make sure that I am lining everything up properly, I do like to stick a couple of the sewing clips in there. And then also I like to poke through all the layers with a pin so I can see if my points are going to line up. I like to use these really fine glass head pins. So I want this purple right here to line up with this purple over here on the corners. So I'm going to poke it through, and I see that it's missing just a tad. So I'm going to adjust that a tiny bit, reclip it, and try to pick up this pin. Here we go. And that way that looks a lot better to me. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that into place. So I'm going to hold that down, make sure again that my seam allowance is, my stitch length is 1.3, 1.5, somewhere around there. Really, really tiny, so it makes taking this paper out a lot easier in the end. So here we go, all the way across the seam allowance. I'm going to make sure that it's sewn all the way across. And then I should be able to open it up and have a nice clean point right there, because we tested that. Now I'm going to sew this open so we can try to, iron this open so we can try to reduce some of that bulk. So I'm going to go press that real quick. Here we go. So I know the last paper piecing block had a lot of bulk in the center. So I'm trying to reduce that a bit by pressing that open, and it just lays a lot flatter. Okay, so now we can sew this next piece on. So if you want to check it all, it's very confusing if you have some flips right side and some not. So I like to keep them all the same way. So make sure they're all paper side up or all fabric side up. That way you don't get confused of which parts go where. So once those are laid out into the right spot, then you can put right sides together. Oops. Make sure all your fabric stays in place. Sometimes on the ends they like to move a lot, so it can help to just put a little dab of glue so that the paper stays with the fabric and it's not shifting on you. It's no fun. So we're going to line up our ends because we got everything trimmed really nicely. And then clip this in place. Ooh, this might be a 3 clipper. Might need 3 clips. Grab one more. Sorry if you can hear my dogs in the background. Being dogs. Okay. So I think this is where my paper got away from my fabric. And there we go. Okay, now my pin, which I put there, and I want to make sure that my star has a really nice point. So since I pressed that open, I can't really see where it's at, but I can see that it's not on the seam. So I know that that needs to shift just a tiny bit. So I'm going to shift that into place. Make sure that that gets right where I want it to go. Make sure the pin is nice and straight and up and down. There. And we can just work this bubble out here. And then we'll check this seam. It's exactly where I want it to go. Oh man, I want to grab another clip. Just really want to make sure my star looks pretty. I do like stars. Looks so neat. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that that gets lined up and put my pin there, and then this. Make sure the fabric stays with the paper as I sew all the way across. Okay, so here we go. Make sure that bottom one doesn't shift. Do recommend the glue stick so that keeps everything in place. All right, so I'm just going to hold that in place. I'm going to start all the way out in the seam allowance and just take out the clips as I go. Make sure everything stays lined up. Okay. And then go to open it up, and again my points look pretty snazzy. I am going to press this one open just like this. I do like to finger press it before I do it with an iron because it just never seems to like go well without finger pressing it. It's like takes too long to iron it or something. I do love my tiny iron. So I keep a little ironing station right next to my sewing machine. And then there's my almost done block, right? So we've got one piece left. So if you turn them all in the same way, we can definitely see where that's going to go. This is this nice long seam right here. So I'm going to put our right sides together and see if we can get those seams to line up. So I'm going to roughly, whoops, see what I was talking about? It just wants to move on you. So glue would be helpful right there. Oops. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that these points line up. That one's just off a tad, so I'm going to shift that a little bit as well. Make sure that I get that, nope, not in the right spot. So I get that where I want it to go. Nope. That looks good. Okay, so pin nice and straight, and then we'll clip that right where I want it to go. And then usually that makes that one pretty spot on. Once you get the one on. Okay, oops. Okay, I'm going to glue that. I can find my very dried out glue stick. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about with the glue, is that the fabric on the ends tries to move a lot. So if we just glue that in place right here on the ends, that way the paper stays where it's supposed to, and it's not being rude and moving on us, right? Ooh, and we're I do like to use clips over pins. They just are faster for me. So here's my block here. I'm going to go ahead and stitch that all the way across. Use that. Okay, so points line up nicely. My edges are very straight here and straight here, so this should measure 10 inches. So it will be finished in the quilt at 9.5. So just to make sure that everything stays in place and is super awesome, I'm going to baste this with a 4 stitch length all the way around the edges. Make sure that it stays in place. Nothing stretches, because when we do the paper piecing, everything could be on the bias. So just willy-nilly cutting that on there. And one more. So here we go. Oh my gosh, can't believe that we're halfway done. So exciting. Okay, last side. Oh, and a half. Last side and a half. So I'm doing this really, really close to the edge, as close as I can to the edge without getting off. So that way I will have my nice 10-inch block going all the way across here. So there is the cool star block. I hope you guys have fun making this one. Oh, I didn't press that one open, but I can still press that open. My basting stitches are in the way. So if you press this one open as well, I'll just take my basting stitches out because they aren't really, they're not necessary for the integrity of the block. They just help keep it square over time because we're not going to sew it together until December. So there is my block. I will have this sample for you guys to check out. If you have any questions, please make sure you let me know. I'm always happy to help. Thank you.